Okay. Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Internet Citizen of Liberia Network program. And we would like to first of all invite all of our audience to tune in now as we are about to discuss today the topic on discussion today will be child labor. Child labor in our own understanding refers to work that deprive children of their childhood, their dignity, their potential, which is also harmful to their physical and mental development. So today we will be providing pragmatic solutions to this situation that is threatening the future leader of our country and also undermining economic and political development in our country. Our guests, as usual, the audience can know that we have Mr. Macron Saka, Mr. Mogulu Gray, and Mr. Elisha P. Dennis. Gentlemen, we say welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the show, we will. Yeah, you're welcome. Here we believe every Liberian citizen should be considered as Liberia's major resources, and so infrastructure development can be actualized. If the well-being of young people are taken into consideration. If, as we heard from our president, State of the Nation address, we more or less stress on basically infrastructure development. The president was very key about road construction and the building of hospitals and so forth and so forth. But we've been following a couple of issues back on the ground. Our people have been left behind. The bread and butter issue the president did not address. And up to present, the president now has not even told how many young people are on the street destituted, that their well-being are not being looked at. And because of these situations, there are a lot of parents who are unemployed. There are a lot of parents who work and they are not being paid. And these situations led their kids to go on the street, trying to find living for them, selling cold water, selling banana candy on the street. And then the president is still boasting of corruption, development. So for me in particular, I want to let Liberian people know we are not highlighting one government to be responsible for the problem in Liberia. Let us be made clear. The problem of Liberia is an age-old problem that has been coming on and on and on. But our generation decided to do something about it. And so we want to provide this platform so every one of us will come up with our own views on how to look at the issue back home. But the kids that are on the streets in Liberia, the kids that are now being treated as adults, that have to fend food for their family. These are situations, if we don't take care of now, I can tell you, those infrastructure development will not meet the desired intention. Because if we will breed people who will come out tomorrow that will not be educated, because these kids are all Liberians. They are Liberians. They have to be taken care of. You know, they live in our country, they have no other country. You know, and I think our national budget should be focused basically on catering for their welfare. I think if the government focus on the well-being of the people will support their development effort. Like I discussed with one of my colleagues before. The GDP of that period, gross domestic product of that period, will have to be developed in order for us to have the GNP also developing or increasing. Because if the gross domestic product has to do with the productivity of each Liberian citizen, individual, how productive are our citizens? Now, if each of our citizens can be productive, now it will be easier for us to calculate the GMP because the GMP will constitute the total productivity of the country. I mean, all of us will come together will make it work for the country. The reason Liberia is poor because its citizens are poor. The reason Liberia is where it is because the people are poor. Now, if we can focus on developing the people's status economically, if we can focus on the bread and butter issue, development will follow. Development will happen. If you look at the United States today, you will realize that the development in the United States is driven by the development of the people. And so the people, because they are in power economically, they want to contribute to national development. They are paying their taxes here. You got to pay your tax here. Why taxes are paid is because people got job to do, people are educated, people have a flow of money in the economy. In our country, where our leaders believe that when they come to power, the best thing they can do is since I was born in Liberia, I've always heard leaders talking about building roads and this and that. They have never completed building roads in a small country. The country is too small. For 174 years, people have been building roads and they are not actually allowed the construction of roads. So I think the problem does not lie in the infrastructure development. The problem lies in the development of the people because the people are the first asset in the country. What we are saying is if the government can prioritize the well-being of the people, can prioritize those kids that are on the street, the future of Liberia will be secure. Because these are the very people tomorrow Liberia will depend for any progress. If we turn our back on those kids that are on the street, if we left them, if we rob them of their dignity, you know, of their social security, what kind of Liberia are we going to get in the next decade? What kind of Liberia are we going to get? We're going to get a Liberia full of criminals, Liberia full of people who don't know what to do, and they will always challenge the development effort in a country. You know, so what we are saying, we don't want the whole president. We are responsible for the current problem that the country faces, but I think President, we have to take a different step. We need to take a step that will be directly impacting the lives of people. Because what I've noticed from the time I've been working with the Liberian government, what I've noticed is the budgetary process are designed, you know, they make it enticing developmentally so that they will have opportunity to take money for their own personal gain. That's why they put money into public work. They put a lot of money into public work so that they will be able to work around. And this development, they can just say we are not able to evaluate them based on the resources that will come to them. We cannot validate the money that was budgeted for against the development effort that they are boasting for. So why can't we look at the problem already impact of our people, the problem that already impact our people's life, and ensure that we do better allotment that will improve the people's life? I believe in my mind when the lives of the Liberians on the street are taken care of, when their education are taken care of, when their social welfare are taken care of, when we build schools for them, when we build recreation center for them, those kids, their parents are unemployed. Sometimes you don't blame your parents. If you were in a good condition, you will probably find a way out to survive. You can have a kid behind you and you're there trying to look for food for them, and at the same time you don't have a job, and you can get $15 profit from other end and have food to eat for that day. That's how people survive in Liberia. But when opportunity created for the Liberian citizen, for their parents. No parent want to see a child on the street struggling to look for food for them. There are conditions causing those things. So what we say, the president create opportunity for Liberian citizens so that they will see need to prepare a better future for their kids. You know, some Mr. Great, you know, these are some concerns. Some people will think that, oh, we are against development effort. We're not against development, but what we say, the first line of development should be the people. The first line of development should be the people. And all our resources should go to the people. So that when the people are developed economically, they will prepare the development we're all yearning for. But the reason we find it so difficult, and some of them make in the whole development effort is that after they put all the budgetary allotment into what they call development, you look at the people who implement the development projects, they benefit most. They have their home in a very short period of time. They build zero home, they ride a zero car. How come? It's because these are ways they design to get the money for themselves. And we are saying no. And so, gentlemen, not to go too far, I would like to bring Mr. Gray in to get the point on this child labor in Liberia and what can be done.
Yeah, Mr. Jala, thank you and good evening, fellow panelists. You see, you have said a lot of the things that are of significance into the discussion. When you actually visit Liberia today, you will see from the very airport, when you arrive, you will see actually children selling, you know, in the streets. And then when you enter the capital and its surrounding, you will also see children selling. The truth of the matter here is that the cost of living is on the rise, as we are aware. But that is about 80% of family, if not even more, cannot afford to meet their basic needs. If a father of 3 is a civil servant who has not received pay to date, just imagine, how do we anticipate that father to pay his rent? How do we anticipate that father to pay children tuition? How can that father provide for his family? Not even taking into consideration the transportation of him back and forth as a civil servant, if he is the breadwinner of the family. This is the story of many Liberians. And as such, they, like you said, they risk the lives of their children to go into the streets and sell just to be able to assist the family to meet the basic needs. This has been ongoing with little or no intervention by the past government and including this government. Like you said, this is an old age issue. However, I'll be lying to you if I don't highlight some of the progress that are being made in Liberia. For example, during the LND government, you realize that we have something called the Decent Work Bill that was passed into law. You all recall that very well. And the true story beyond this was actually due to the severity of child labor that was being flagged by the International Labour Organization, of which Liberia is a member, though. What people need to understand here is that the severity actually prompted the Allen administration to establish Liberia's first labor law since the 1950s. To address the issues that the International Labour Organization consider as severe. What you see in the Decent Work Bill that form part of addressing the issue of child labor is, it talks about no child should be employed under the age of 18. Today, we see people employed, we see people working. It try to prohibit trafficking of children and so forth. But one of the key things it talks about there that I would like to highlight on here is that it said there should be work by which a nature or circumstance is likely to harm the health and safety and well-being of children should be prohibited. So when the bill was actually passed into law, we saw under the Allen administration, Allen government, we saw children still selling in the streets, in communities. We saw that, and even in the capital. And we saw they were involved in the work that were harmful and hazardous to their health and their well-being. Now, fast forward, if you look at the Allen administration today, through the Ministry of Labor, they have committed themselves to as well to address these concerns that have been flagged in the past by the International Labour Organization. So the reason why actually they have taken a step forward is because according to the Sustainable Development Goal, it actually compels member states or nations that are part of the International Labour Organization to also act immediately with effective action to address the issue. So I want to first and foremost applaud the WIA administration by developing what you call the National Action Plan in 2018. That is to address the severity of child labor in Liberia. Now, let's look at when you look at the National Action Plan, okay, the focus of the National Action Plan is actually to reduce child labor in Liberia, according to the plan, by 50% by 2030. Now, when you look at the government, actually, they are planning to put in place to reduce this or to achieve this. You tend to wonder how we're going to do this. First and foremost, the government talk about public awareness on the causes and consequences of child labor. Now, when I was reading that, what came to my mind was, how can you talk about using public awareness to address child labor in Liberia when the very reason of children that we see in the street is because they do not have the necessary support to eat or to even go to school? How can you tell a parent or child to leave the street selling when their basic survival depends on goods and services that they sell daily to survive? I actually think in my mind that the causes of child labor has to be addressed from the government end. And how can that be done? I believe that it has to be done through social services, through social programs, like providing for those struggling families to enable them meet their basic need, because that is key. If they cannot meet their basic need, like you said, they're going to find an alternative. And that alternative is to go to the street to be able to sell and to be able to meet their need. The second thing about that was that they talk about strengthening the legal and institutional framework. We sound very, very good, but as we all know, how strengthened is our legal framework? What is being done? We don't see the practical aspect of that being done. You're talking about increase in social services as well by the Liberian government, and they want to protect children of vulnerable households. If you just recall, the president just spoke about the stimulus package that was being given and being implemented by the World Food Program. And when you look at that, you realize that a lot of people have not even received anything to date. That is very, very alarming to me. And we're talking about 5 counties that have not received. And if you look at the number, some people have questioned the number, saying that it's not even true. It's even more than that. But the bottom line to me here is that we have seen plans. Actually, we are seeing laws, we are seeing regulations being brought into effect. What the Liberian people need to see now is they need effective action through implementation, because children continue to sell in the street and its surrounding, and they are involved in activities that are very harmful daily to their welfare and their health. Now, when you look at child labor, according to the UNHCR, it says that 78% of children working in the agriculture area, that is, you're talking about the production of rubber, you're talking about burning coal or charcoal, you're talking about the production of cocoa, all that kind of stuff. 17.4% of children are in services. They are in the streets begging. They are street selling, and they are carrying heavy loads and so forth like that. That is a problem. And like you said, I do applaud the government for undertaking all of these developmental initiatives. But what we need to understand here keenly is that in order to sustain that, in order to do these things, you want to first and foremost make sure that you empower your people. Talk about something. You talk about building human capacity. You cannot be building roads. You cannot be doing all of these things, and your people have a very poor healthcare system. They are dying daily. They can barely have ends meal to eat. They are selling the street. You gotta focus on their priority. What is the priority over here? How can a father take care of his children? That is a concern. How can he provide for his household? That is another key thing. We understand infrastructure development is key, and we are in the 21st century. But we got to make sure how do we go about implementing this is the issue of concern. You cannot be doing all of these things and people are dying because there is the healthcare system is very, very poor and deplorable. You cannot be doing all of these things when people barely have food to eat. They are struggling. So investing in human capacity in our healthcare system, as well as the education system, for me, are primary issue that we need to focus on. And once you invest in the mind and develop the mind of the people, investment, development, infrastructure development will all come into our economy. So it's just a two-way to it. People are saying, oh, let's just build a road, let's force development on the people. You can't build a road for someone who don't have food to eat. What good it is for that person who doesn't have food to eat and they are selling in the streets? We got to be able to provide those social programs that will help support families, no program that will help to support families, to put food on their table, create an environment that we enable the environment to create jobs for our people, because unemployment is very high in Liberia, as you know. You've been living in Liberia for a very long period of time. I was there too as well. The job market is very, very poor, and as such, it is hampering our growth. So until we tend to focus on ourselves, our people, the people in Liberia, the young men and women who are struggling daily, we will be going nowhere, because this is like an old thing that is being done in just a new era. We need to focus on developing our people. Mr. Jala, on that note, I will let you back to you. But those are the key things I want to focus on.
Thank you very much. You made very, very great points, and I think we take serious note of that. And just to remind our audience, we got the number to call. If you want to call into the show, the number will be appearing on the screen shortly. But let me just give you the number briefly so that you will have. The number is 551. This is a number in the US here, 551 274 2188. You can call in to make your point on this issue as we go along. And so I will ask Mr. Macron, Mr. Macron, what do you think is the consequence of child labor in Liberia? What kind of feature will we have if we continue to treat kids in our country? Mr. Macron.
Okay, thanks. For the record, the name is Mukra, but you can call me Eli. We should call me Eli. My middle name is Elijah, and the short form is Eli. Everybody calls me Eli, so.
Okay, Eli.
Eli would be good for the platform. Yeah.
Okay, Eli.
You guys made a lot of great points, and like with everything you're saying, these are age-old problems. These are iron problems that were manufactured by this administration or the administration before it. We've been having issues going back. But just because we did not manufacture a problem doesn't mean we can't begin to engage in the solution phase of it. We know child labor. We see kids selling school age kids, grade school age kids selling in the streets at the time that school is supposed to be ongoing. I applaud President Weah for the contributions he made to the University of Liberia, for paying for the WASC, WESSC, we used to call it national exam when we were there. But when the whole idea of free tertiary education came up, when Minister Antoine Kesselly shared it on Facebook, a lot of us had comments about it. We put forth some arguments. Liberia is such that we have students graduating high school that can't compose a letter. They graduate anyway. When we go to WASI, we see people there, the massive failure across the board. And I said to people over and over and again that we went through the school system, and at one point people asked questions like, well, how come I was somebody who sold on the street. My mom made rice bread and stuff, and we sold. I grew up Capitol Hill, where used to be the Loma Quarter School. There is this little Nigerian shop across from the information ministry. That's where we used to live. My mom used to make bread, and we would sell on the streets. And for a while, I sold cold water down water side. I think at the time I was in the 8th or 9th grade. And people ask questions like, well, you guys went through similar stuff. You came out fine. It's different for different people. Yeah. I say over and over and again, I sold for my mom and on the other side for my dad. So there was food when I came home from selling. I went to school and left school before I went to sell. Then I would sell a lot on the weekends where there was no school. So for me and the other kids that sold with me, we were in the same. I could eat some of the bread I was selling from my mom if I felt I was hungry. And she wouldn't punish me or beat me or do anything. A lot of these kids are selling stuff that they can eat. They sell for sometimes families that are not even their own families probably took them in and are using them to be the breadwinners. And the reason why I brought in the college and free WhatsApp fee is the fact that we seem to think in Liberia that we can fix our country from the top to the bottom. It is reflected in the way we say, oh, one day we'll get a good leader who will like Liberia and they will do good things for us. We saw it when we said, oh, the people said, President, we are getting the country ahead. I mean, he will be good for the country. No matter how well-meaning an individual is, government is systemic. Government is process. Government is different departments across different landscapes that need to be engaged at the same time for stuff to happen. Similarly, with tackling things like child labor and what we can do to get us out of that. You guys get all of the beautiful statistics and stuff. For me, the amount of money we're spending, the government has put aside to deal with paying WhatsApp fees and giving free tertiary education to individuals, we could have looked at it from a different perspective. We've always had students massive failure when it comes to WIAC. We have massive failure when it comes to entrance, and it doesn't seem like anything has changed. I think when I look at the last one, they say about either 13% of the students that took the LU entrance passed out of, I think it's how many thousand, they say either like 900 passed both subjects and another few hundreds passed both subjects. And the reason is because we're throwing solutions at individuals that have already don't have the foundation that they need. So if we talk about childhood development, I did a little bit of research. It says it just show you the developmental stages of children as they grow. This so I'm just going to just read it out a little bit. So I don't want to go as way back to months old, but when we get to 2 and 3 or between 3 and 5, we say children develop pre-academic skills. They learn letters, they learn shape, they learn number. Then we go to 6 to 12, logical thinking. The people can understand stuff like matter and science and how cells become organisms and those kind of stuff. When we get past 13, we're able to formulate hypotheses. We can think about abstract things, and we go into the physics and the chemistry. If we don't have kids with the foundation, then going to WIAC, I don't care if I pay your school fee. If you fail, it don't change anything. And it is the same failure rate we take into LU too. I can pay for all these students, the few of them that pass to go to LU, but if the foundation is not there, then it doesn't make sense. Here in the US, grade school is free for kids. Grade school, if you send that children to grade school here, you don't pay nothing. They argue that when an individual gets to the level of tertiary education, then we go into financial aid because now the person must take responsibility for their education. They must understand the importance of getting tertiary education. Everybody don't need to get tertiary education, but when you make up your mind that you want to get tertiary education, it means that your foundation, that basis was established, and you know the importance of your own education now so that you go into tertiary education. In Liberia, we turn the whole process around. We don't care what the person do from first grade to 12th grade. We pay WhatsApp school fees for them, and then we say free education at the university level. For me, we need to go back to that. And again, I have argued on Facebook more times than I can remember that individuals must stick in their tertiary education. Tertiary education is not a joke. It's now what you're going to use to have a vocation or a career. So when you get to that stage, you should be partly responsible for what you want to do, because that is what is going to set your life up. Let us spend those monies on the early childhood development. My friend Masa Dopo is writing books on early childhood development. That is the root. That is where we are able to target a generation that can come up and be breadwinners for their own family. Because, bro, if we are getting kids in the mindset of thinking through abstract thoughts, logical thinking, it's not hard for you to tell them, man, oh, don't vote for somebody who can promise you rest before election and you don't see them 2 years from now. The idea is civic education at the grassroots level. I argue over and over and again that Liberia's problem must be addressed from the bottom up. For me, it's investing in early childhood and early adulthood education that makes most sense than giving money to people, giving free university education to Liberians across Liberia.
So, Macron, you just nailed the point on the head. You know, when you were talking about the tertiary education, you know, when I hear people talking about free education, I think to one on the quality of education for the people that you call free. You know, first of all, you need to invest in the system to make it up to the standard that the people can get what they want from all of it. But before we further expound on this issue, Mr. Dennis, I would like to hear from you. Looking at Liberia now, and the way young people are being deprived of opportunity, including their parents, what kind of Liberia you think we will get and will continue in this path? And what can we do to change it now?
All right, thanks, Mr. Jala. Before I even learn on the situation about Liberia, let me just give an overview of the whole child labor thing in the world, now in Africa. You know, there are so many causes of child labor in the world. We got poverty, unemployment, poor education, and there are so many. But the two major ones I want to focus on today is family poverty and poor education. Our adults, especially in Liberia, majority don't have a job. And when these people don't have a job, they send the kids out to go and sell. When the kid is selling, they ain't got no way to go to school. So now that kid, you know his future is going to be the same as his father. He's going to get older and making less wages because he got no education background. So with the issue of child labor in Liberia, Africa as a whole, according to UNICEF, like 25% of the poorer countries in the world, they have the higher tendency of the child labor. Because, come on, sub-Saharan Africa, civil unrest, that's another cause of child labor. Because the civil unrest in sub-Saharan Africa, majority of the kids over there, I think over 78%, they are involved in child labor. And they are doing hazardous work, the word used earlier. And before going to say hazardous work, let's look at the definition of child labor. There is child work and child labor. According to the International Labour Organization, child work in developing countries, when you're 14 years old, you can do light work. They can go to the supermarket and put in plastic pool and work. That is child work. Child labor is when they carry to the factory on an agricultural farm, and you do work that an adult should be doing. Like Obama passed a bill, I don't know whether it will take effect. All the countries are doing business overseas. And when you get any child work within that factory or company, whatever it is, you don't want that goods to come to America. Because he said, using your child, and you paying little or nothing, and you're producing all that billions of dollars worth of goods for you. So what the child is benefiting. Example, in Malawi pay foreign investors 40% of their GDP, but then only pay 15% on our healthcare and our education. So most countries in Africa, they divert their attention to foreign investors that come to the country and give all the money to them and forget about the whole system. Our system in Liberia is bad. Everybody know that. It's deplorable. Mainly I saw plastic in the market, I saw chicken soup in the market. I ain't supposed to do that. But if we're not paying our older ones, we're not paying those that are supposed to take care of the kids. The kids will be in the street, the older ones will be in the street. I just don't have, like, you want to have a basic education. You should get at least a regular civil servant job. Like you said earlier, you haven't paid the guy for over 3 or 4 months. How you expect the kids to eat? How you expect to pay the school fees for them? So these kids will always be in the street. And what I did was, I knew all come with the same idea. But I decided to write my own solution to the problem in Liberia. If it can be implemented, that's the best way forward. You gotta need some other points. It's just like everything's in it, or some of everything that I wrote. I couldn't memorize everything. So it's like the first solution is we should provide a great education services to enhance instruction quality and improve the learning environment of our people. So we get a great beginning, like investing area. We get a daycare, we have vocational institution, we have technical institution. So if you're trying to come to daycare and go to kindergarten, from kindergarten, even if you don't want to learn the academic, you can go learn the vocational aspect, go to the vocational aspect, or go to the technical aspect. Like, for example, kids in China, they leave school, they go home to computers, video games, basketball games, soccer games. So they're building a mind. Some of them in the library reading. Some of them become scientists. They're not in the street selling. These same kids will become scientists tomorrow, will be an athlete, will be a business person, and the development channel going to continue. Because if you develop a human capacity, you develop your country. But on the other hand, our kids go to school. Somebody get out of school and have food to eat the whole day. The next thing in the street. If they're not stealing, they're selling. They might not even go back to school the next day because they haven't eaten. The second one, it provides support for parents to improve their incomes. It will create jobs, and the parents are working and generating funds. How much for the kids? The kids will be in school. When they get out of school, they have at least a meal to eat. But if the parents not getting it, the kids will be right back on the street. Another one is encouraging the national, those who make the laws, got to encourage them to abide by the laws. Because the lawmakers, they always follow one to violate anyway. That is normal in Africa. So we got to encourage those who make the laws to abide by the laws. If they abide by the laws and say, okay, we're not encouraging child labor, you got to be 18 years old to work or to sell. From 16-year-old down, where you can't be selling, you can't do this. If that is effective, it's a way forward. One I like is equipping the communities, like encouraging the leaders, parents, churches, religion of all kinds, to see how best they can get involved. Because when the churches have outreach program, and these kids who are abandoned by their parents or don't have parents, and these churches or whatever religious aspect is, and take care of these kids, I think it's a way forward. Because when you create an outreach program for kids, they are basically learning something over there. They're not there for free. They're only there to eat. You wake up in the morning, you take a shower, being disciplined, you clean your room, you do this, you go to the cafeteria, you eat. You have program at a time, you attend the program. So when these kids have things to do, like in order to, to stay out of the street, I think that'll be better for, the development of Liberia. And the last one is providing decent work for youth who are above the minimum working age through training, life skills, entrepreneurship, as well as saving and credit services. So I think when we put these things to place, and it can be done by one person though. For Liberia, it is government. I'm trying to diversify mine now. The investors gotta be involved. Those foreign investors, when they come to the country, they gotta be part of the situation. You can't be hiring kids, that's what be illegal age to work. You're violating ILO requirements. So if the laws are created and those who create are abiding by it, when the foreign investor come and see that the people in the country are abiding by their own laws, they can't violate the laws. But you got your own people violating the laws, I'll do like the Romans. I come to what you're doing, I will do. And I'm bribing, I will bribe. Send it down right back to corruption. Because our people mind are so corrupted They will not take anything to violate anything. There's no way you can say a child to a gold mine, 13 years old, will work your gold mine. Then what happened in South Africa? The minister, I think, he got fired. He allowed a man to enter that sunny mine, put that gold on there, and the child died. Yeah, that's what violation of the requirements. As other was 18 and up should do it. For a little kid who is 13 years old, 12 years old, to go on an agriculture farm. I mean, you got pesticides over there. You can get any bad health condition for that. So my only way forward, like Sako said, we gotta invest from the early stage. We gotta create avenue for the kids. Technical school, daycare, vocational schools, anything that can take a child off the street. That'll be better for Liberia.
Yeah, Mr. Dennis, that's so very kind, man. You just said it, and we all just getting the issue to the core. And what I would like to also stress on, the problem that we are discussing, this is just the symptom that we see. The real problem is the economic condition of Liberian citizens. Is very deplorable. And these things will produce a lot of things that we're going to be discussing on the platform. And we would like to make this very clear to our audience that, we in the United States, we all got our own story. We share the problem of a lot of Liberian youth and young people, like Macron and Dennis said, I saw King Jews who might die. I had to go to the red market and buy the King Jew. And some of these things will lead children to start becoming adults and start doing some of those things that adults can do. Because when I used to taste the King Jew shot, and it just got a mercy of God. Some of us are here and doing better. The fact that we survive the condition. That's why today we intend to take the lead. Life is better for us. But I gotta believe that if you are just living, we all own a platform. We came to the conclusion that if you are just living your life for yourself and for your family to be good, you are living a small life. And so we intend to step up and say, we can turn our back on our brothers back home and say, because things are better for us, which means I would call that we have some of the problems we are addressing here, they are problems that we ourselves face. We ourselves face this problem, and we know why it takes. And we are saying this has got to come to an end. So, some of the solutions I will offer for me, in my mind, I think, like from the president's speech, instead of the nation address, we didn't hear anything about foreign direct investment, domestic investment in the economy. There's a need for our government to be able to entice investors to come into the country. And how do we do that? And even entice investors, Liberia has a lot of problems, gentlemen. Even entice investors, even entice investors to come to the country. The people productive capacity not even up to the tax for investment. That is looking shy away investors. How many skilled people you got in the country? How many people, if somebody want to take their business or their production into Liberia to sell to the rest of the world, do you have the manpower that they need? So our government needs to pay full attention to raising all the GDP of the Liberian people. It's important. That will attract a lot of money, because if you have a group of citizens that are very productive, you know what they're gonna do? They don't necessarily have to work with government. They will attract investment as well. They will attract investment by their productive initiative. Now, if they are as productive as they should be, and they want to attract investors, what will happen? They will create wealth. And if we have citizens that are wealthy, they contribute to the national wealth of the country. The reason why African countries are poor is because they're not focusing on their people. If they improve the lives of their people, you will see that alone will attract a lot of material that they need, a lot of resources they need. So why is it that our government impasse the government now are not able to attract investors? Because of irresponsibility, indiscipline, irresponsibility. leader can set example. If you as a leader, before becoming a leader, you know, nobody know your asset, nobody know what you have. And then the moment you take state power, you have what you had in the past. The moment you take state power, you become to get more than what, and nobody can give balance between what you have and what you have now. Any sound investor will have to check and say, hey, I mean, you gotta wait and see. These are things that continue to drive investment away from our society. We need to be responsible as leaders. We need to prioritize the people where being their hours. Public service should be a sacrificial service. It shouldn't be to enrich yourself. If you intend to go to serve people, you must be somebody that loves people. You must get passion for people. Most of our leaders don't have passion for people, because if you really get passion for people, you will not be driving the street with a $175,000 car and seeing a cake or a kid fucking mineral water bag on the street. That's completely new. I feel very shame if I was a leader in our country driving one of the cars. Sincerely speaking to you myself, it will sound something way to people, but it doesn't make no sense for you to live in a society and live with surplus. See, in our very society, some people drinking at the bottom. They can't even get the first dollar to survive. This is wrong. This is completely wrong. And our people will have to look this time around. Who are we going to elect for our children's future? It's not a accommodation for this problem. The symptom of child labor. This symptom of child labor comes from a problem. The problem is the parents of these kids are incapacitated. We lay on several occasions, 7 not taking pay, but government prioritizing national development, infrastructure development. We lay on many occasions, parents going to bed without food in our country. This thing has led to even kids being violated on the street, being raped. There are many occasions I learned that people go to garages to sell in Liberia. Guys who got 1 or 2 money until they pour them in the car and abuse them. What kind of generation are we going to bring up if we continue in this direction? We need responsible leadership in Liberia. We need people who love people. We need people who want to see the good in people. Look, you don't have to look at the armed robber, the Zomo, all those guys are Liberian. We need to design programs to improve their lives. They're not going to go nowhere, no matter what you do. Those Liberian kids you see on the street, that even if you bring a kid in America here, you do well with your kid, or you send your kid to the best school, or that, and go children on the street live and I'm better, they will create threat for your kids. They will create a situation that will be ungovernable for your kids. Lastly, we need to empower our Liberian businesses. People doing business in Liberian businesses struggling. People doing business in our country, they can survive. They can survive. They can barely get ends meet. They can barely do anything. And then you see foreign business prospering. The foreigners, when they get the money, they send it at home. When our people, when you invest in our Liberian business, they spend the money in Liberia. I think our government need to prioritize Liberian businesses. And as well, make sure we have recreation center for destitute young people who we don't know, we don't have anywhere to put them. We can create vocational education there. We can have psychosocial counseling there. We can have things that will improve their life. So those are just few of the things that I want to offer as a suggestion for the problem that we discussing now, child labor. I don't know if you have things to add as well.
Yes, you guys have said it all. For me, to be honest, is having a servant leader, a leader with a heart for his people. You understand? That is very, very key. But another thing that I want to say over here is this. We have, I did mention about the decent work bill that was being passed now, the National Action Plan. You know, all of those things are beautiful. That's why I applauded the past and current administration. They are beautiful. But what it is to implement that when you have not addressed the core issue, like my colleague referred to as parents, the lack of job opportunities in the environment. How can you address it? How can you go ahead and enforce these things when you're not taking care of your citizens? You understand? So for me, it's like a first priority is to make sure that we have a great education system in place, like my colleague referred to us. We need that in place. We need to create an environment, an enabling environment that will create employment opportunity and support Liberian-owned businesses. You go to Liberia today, you see foreigners are involved in businesses that Liberians should be involved in. You know what I'm saying? So the competition is so hard. You know, I'm not even sure whether the Liberianization policy is still into effect up to this time. I'm yet to search that out. But you got people who are from Lebanon who are selling cold water, and they are just businesses they are doing that are making it very, very difficult for our brothers and sisters to even get involved into that business. So the environment is a little hostile for our own people. And all we are saying is that create an environment to protect them. When you go to other countries, you go to Ghana, you go to Nigeria, you just name the neighboring country. You're not going to go over there and say you're going to start opening a store or start doing a business and just start doing this. You're not going to do. They're not going to allow you. The law is not going to allow you to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to allow you to do that. And we have to be very, very mindful of this. We got to pay attention to this. Our people are dying. Our healthcare system is deplorable. The education system is terrible. You know what I'm saying? So like my colleague said, Mr. Sako said, you're not going to invest into paying these school fees and doing this when you pay the school fees, the kids go and they fail. We got to go down to the bottom. The bottom is primary education. We need to invest in our primary education. We need to invest in that because as far as I'm concerned, if you do not, in America over here, there are people when your wife or when your girlfriend is pregnant, they have the system put in place is that you can it has come to the point that the child can be in the mother's womb and the child can be educated. Isn't that enlightening? That our mother can read to the child while the child is in the mother's belly. That is just how serious to take primary education in this country. You know what I'm saying? So we need to focus on that. Another thing is we as a people. Okay, we as a people, we need to not just put laws on book. Like I said, we have labor inspectors. I didn't even know that are actually supposed to be going to these companies in Liberia to check on the issue of child labor. Now, I've been to a lot of the companies over there. How many times have you seen somebody say, I'm from the Ministry of Labor or as an inspector or agent coming to see whether we have child in this industry, in the factory working? When last you seen that? But we got all of these people on books saying that they are doing this work, but however, there is still a problem going on. You know, child labor is being affected seriously. It's a serious issue in our country. And like one of my colleagues just said, as I see on the screen, he talking about how the number has escalated in Africa. And in Liberia, it is off the chart. If you go into the diamond mines, you see illegal diamond mining. Who you see involved in this stuff? You see kids. Why? Because they got now kids are even at a point where they are taking care of their parents. Can you imagine that? A child who's supposed to enjoy his childhood now is involved in providing for his parent. That is how bad and worsening the situation has become. So we need to pay attention to that. We need to provide an enabling environment, even subsidies. Even subsidies to parents. We got to be able to do that. All of the infrastructure development that's going on is great. It's a good thing. But look how good it is. But you got people who cannot have a meal to. So you are saying you take infrastructure development over the plight of a citizen who cannot afford food to eat? If you ask me to choose, I will tell you, I will provide a meal to that parent. I will provide an opportunity for that parent to enable themselves take care of their family. Because if the individual is given that capacity to fetch for themselves and take care of their children, you know what's going to happen? They will give back into the economy. They will give back into the society. And that is key. It should not be the other way around that the government does everything. The government needs to just empower its citizens. build that capacity, and the citizens in return will invest that capacity that they achieve. They will invest back into the economy.
Yeah, Mr. Gray, absolutely. And Mr. McCall, Mr. Ila, I'm sorry, we will get them me gradually, we have, yeah.
My man, that thing about moon and cry, put it together. When the moon cry, that's my name, moon cry. There you go. Yep.
Yes, sir.
It seems like we have a caller.
You want to take this call quick?
Yeah, let's take a caller.
Hello, your name and where you calling from, please?
Hey, my name is Kelvin Richards. I'm an attorney. I'm calling from New York City.
Hi, Mr. Richard. How you doing? What is your point?
You're contributing
to liberate your point.
Yes, sir. Did I get?
Yeah, say, what is your take on this topic? The effect of child labor in Liberia.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Richard, can you hear me?
Oh yes.
Yeah, what is your take on this topic? The effects of child labor in Liberia.
Oh, I think the problem is that because the phone is backwards, I'm hearing echo. So I'm gonna step aside.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what we can do is when you're not commenting, go on mute.
Okay.
That may help.
Yeah, Mr. Richard, can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you loud and clear.
Listen, I appreciate the conversation. My name is Calvin Richards, defense attorney in New York, and I'm very interested in the conversation you guys are having with child labor. It's very interesting, and the problem here is I was trying to explain. I've been writing in the chat the difference between child labor and child work. And like all of us, I know you, Mamulu. I know my other friend from SDA. I was debating with the challenge. So I know he recognizes me from SDA. But the issue is my concern is explaining to Liberian people the difference between child labor and child work. Because we're a very poor country. Liberia is very poor, so it's kind of a little hard to argue to families that they can't have their kids helping them economically. I listened to one of your panelists there. He used to sell red bread after school, and the reason why that's important is because if it wasn't interfering with his schooling and his physical and mental development, then that's not child labor. And I think that's a misunderstanding we have in Liberia. And also, studies have shown that when you introduce young people to responsibility about working and be responsible around 15, 16-year-old, it makes them to be responsible adults. So we should clarify, this kind of what is actually child labor and what is actually child work. And I think if we should just eliminate child work, that would be a misinformation. So we have to actually separate child labor from child work. Because even here, we have kids here who work at McDonald's when they're in high school. Not even in middle school. I see some kids as a cashier when they were 16. 16 going to 17. So we have to draw the line between. I understand it's not physical labor. It's not like selling cold water. I was in Liberia a few years ago in 2017. It's not like when I was on Broad Street, I had to turn, running across the street, jumping from a car to sell plastic bags and water. I get that part. But still, being in McDonald's, working at the cashier, it still works. And you're getting paid for it. So I think when we're discussing this issue, we have to actually draw the line first between what is child work and child labor. Because, we have labor laws on the books in Liberia, but the issue is who's going to enforce them? Like you, all of you guys are smart people. You guys know we have the labor laws on the books in Liberia. The problem is enforcement. We're not enforcing those laws. So I I think your audience should be cognizant of the differences between child work and child labor. And then, but this is a very good topic, and I'm happy you guys are addressing this issue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rishi, for your contribution. Thank you.
I would like for you to clarify, because you be on the ground, Dennis be on the ground, and we understand exactly what kind of child labor we're talking about in Liberia. We understand what the Anthony said, with respect to America and kids working at McDonald's. We this situation is completely different from what we're referring to in Liberia. What we're referring to those are situations like I told you about children selling in garage in the neighborhood garages around Liberia. Some of them are being abused, and we see some of these kids are selling. They're not getting anything for it, but they have to just make sure they get something that will just give them the food for the day, just from hand to mouth. And some of them are being abused. Like we said, when you have physical and mental development, then it becomes child labor. Somebody don't want to do it. So I would like you to hear on that further, because you take a your conversation. You verify his
Yeah, so Kevin, we have somebody on the phone, or I'm on?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Kevin is making a lot of good points, and I agree. But Prince Dennis made that distinction in the beginning, that he drew that line between what is child work and what is child labor. I agree with him that I made mention of myself. I sold, and I was doing it for my own parents. I would go to school, and I would do all of the regular things that regular kids did, and I would go to sell. I agree. We can not every form of assistance that a child gives to a parent is child labor. We're saying, like he said, when it interferes with any kind of cognitive development, or if you have school-age children selling during school period, that becomes a problem. But since we know, since we can draw the line now, because over here, like he was mentioning, there are internships. Kids are little and they take them out for them. They go get interns so that they're taught on the job training and that kind of stuff. We don't see that a lot back home, but that's where we wanted to go. When we talk about parents and the assistances they need, this is where our government comes in. And I agree. I agree that, hey, Liberia, we are too dependent on government, blah, blah, blah. But here is the deal. The way our government does business is the reason why we are so dependent on government. An example I give all of the time is the past administration. We had an administration that attracted so much FDI, attracted so much foreign companies that came into Liberia. But then we had those companies in sectors that offer jobs that require extra high level of education or expertise. As such, there weren't many Liberians that were able to benefit from those companies. Our government don't go into contracts with the overall good of the nation. They go into it for what is the immediate benefit for the government as we sit. Administrations want to boast that, I got this amount of money. When I talk to the guys, I'm saying, when we do contracts, especially limited contracts, what we do is we try to collect as little upfront as possible, so that as the contract continues, the company gets to put more and more into the country. That way, I'm not thinking about how much this guy gives me before he starts operations. Those are the things that scare a lot of investors away. If I have to come and pay a buck of what I have to spend over the 10 years of my contract, alarm bells are going out. You guys are here for 6 years. If I'm signing a 10-year contract and you want me to give you 80 or 90% of what I'm going to spend as capital over the next 10 years, that's alarm bells for me. We don't sign contracts in our country where the guys pay little and they're tied to contracts for lengthy periods, so that we're saying over the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, you are investing more in the communities where you do businesses and into education and into health. A company is supposed to take care of the communities they do businesses in. We see those principles, here in the US. But when you get back to Liberia, they say, oh, we have all of these companies. Soon the last administration left, all of them packed their things and they left. Well, if I was invested into doing business here, why will I be worried about who the politicians are? Because if I have a contract that extends, I didn't pay you a lot in the front, and I am supposed to invest over the long term, I'm not going anywhere because you're not forcing me to bring more money. The reason why these people can up and leave is because I came here, the administration I was in position took so much money from me. Now that they have changed, the new administration, is trying to come and take even more money from me. What is the incentive to stay here? There's no incentive. The government needs to change the way we do business. That's the only way we are able to move Liberia from being government employed focus to people who want to step out into the private sector. You have the brightest minds in countries outside of Liberia go into other things than government. Government is I don't know, lender of last resort, if you want to call them. But in our country, it is the main employer, and it's just because of the way the guys do business. I don't want to go into SONA and all of that stuff, but today, the reason why we see parents don't have it to take care of the kids is simply because the government is not creating that environment for the everyday Liberian to be able to go out and get jobs. When you look for contracts and also companies to come to Liberia, you have to look for the kind of labor that our labor force is able to do. Don't go look for people who want mining and all kind of BB engineers. No. Look for people who see places in China. You come do business here, you have to employ the people who will fix the small things. It is we need to look for companies that are looking for the workforce that we have in country, and now just for them to can't get our money who on top of the government now for the share more. I was saying when we move from here, nothing left. That's the Liberian problem. One way to address that, if you ask me, is for us to get serious about checks and balances in Liberia. Go after our lawmakers, not just the executive branch. We really need to go after our lawmakers because these are the people, lawmakers, superintendents, district chiefs. Those people are supposed to care for the people that they are leaders for in those little communities. Job, we are not know nobody inside Babylon country. You guys who are those country representatives are the ones that know people every day there. So you are supposed to be able to make the cases for your people when you see the person. Nobody do anything like that in Liberia. That's the problem, bro. For me, that's where the real issue lies.
I agree with you 100%. The people's representative, I think that's the baseline. Everything needs to start from. If the people representative are not compromising the people's interests in their branches of government, it's because they are there to make sure the executive branch do what it's supposed to do. And I think that's where the compromise can start from. Mr. Mokron, like you said, before I kind of Mr. Dennis, one of the issue I'll let up from Mr. Dennis, which will forest what the Anthony said about for us clarifying on child labor, you were forest on that. But with respect to investment in Liberia, Mr. Mokron said, investment in Liberia will have to be focused firstly on our people. Now, if you can, if the government can allocate budget for Liberian businesses to empower them, and have a system to evaluate the business plan and see the productivity of such business on the Liberian populace, I think that there's a need for the Liberian people to go to the Liberian people. Most of our budgetary allotment are not benefiting our people. This is
It seems like we lost both of our we lost Prince and
yeah, they're gonna come back on. But just to follow on that, you see, Kelvin, Mr. Richards actually made some great points. I'm not sure whether he was on when Dennis was deliberating on that, but what we were really concerned about in that Mr. Sacco is about actually speaking against trafficking of children. You know what I'm saying? Those are issues. Also using children as debt bondage and stuff like that. Those are child labor issue stuff, especially procuring children for prostitution, or illicit activities and stuff like that. Self-love and that kind of stuff. Those are things that are dangerous or dangerous to the health. Yeah, Mr. Jala, you're back, right?
Yeah. So, Mr. Dennis, I was about to come back to you. So, what do you make of the Liberian scenario of child labor and the Liberian businesses, and what our lawmakers are also doing to hold government accountable for this situation? What's your view on that, Mr. Dennis?
Yeah, the first thing is, let me just respond to that. You were talking about child work. Child work and child labor. Okay, let me give you the definition from the International Labour Organization. So child labor is defined as work that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful to children. Work that interfere with kids' schooling by depriving them of the opportunity to attend school, obliging them to leave school prematurely, or requiring them to attend to combine school attendance with excessively long and heavy work. So when the situation in Liberia, with this definition, I think they concord. The kids in Liberia, they are in the street from morning to like midnight before they even go home. Like most of the time, the GC kids, these kids will still, they don't get home till 11 o'clock. And it was a common thing among us. We know that GC children only eat 12 midnight and they go to sleep. They don't eat the rest of the day and they wait 12 midnight. So when you define it in developing countries, it's different according to the acronym. Developing countries would be child work is you get a high school, you go to the supermarket, you put the load of plastic, and at the day you generate small funds, you go home, study, sleep, and go back to school. But when it comes to Africa, it's a whole different scenario. Sub-Saharan Africa, when the kids are holding guns, they're in the street, they're part of the rebel group. The ones who are not part of the rebel group, who are living freely, are selling, or some of them tend to be mechanic. A 12-year-old is a mechanic.
Yeah.
Living heavy stuff. That is harmful to him. So before that came in 10, 22, 23 years old, he could live up with that even or 50-year-old game in therefore because all your life is not living heavy stuff. The definition, I think, kind of different with respect to the environment we are in. There's no you see a 12-year-old say we are working to Amazon or any of the BB companies. Or you carry back to Africa, the 12-year-old won't work. With the situation with our lawmakers, like for me, from the day one, I oppose the 15,000 given to them anyway. Second thing, they never pass any bills, they never make any laws. The only thing I know, they just approve money, approve money, approve money. If you ask a lawmaker, say, oh, what have you bought? What kind of bill have you passed? Oh, I passed so many concessions in the house, I passed so many concessions. Okay, what impact have you made in your neighborhood? You see your lawmaker living in Banavie Estate. The entire neighborhood is dark. Only he got light. One for the president to provide life for that Banavie, but you represent the poor Banavie. The people voted you, but you drive 3 cars in the morning to go to work. But you can't even fix the road you're driving your car on. But when the president to come and fix the road. And the thing what people don't understand about Africa and some of the modern countries, when it comes to the government in Africa, everything is on the president. So when the president is successful, the party for that president will be happy. When the president is unsuccessful, they all fail. When they say you, the minister for finance, when they say you live in Brevet, not because you live in Brevet mean that the president can't help you to face the roof from Mora to Brevet. You minister. If you get mayor or governor or they get senators, but I know the senator, I know how your constituency is set up. But the lawmakers should help the president. You can't be representing District 3 and the base wouldn't pass from District 3, but you're waiting for the city mayor to come clean District 3. You live in District 3. Most of the lawmakers don't even live in Liberia counties. They all live in Central Mara. That's all population by itself right there. most of the adults who get little education as well live in Buffalo or River G, they all move to Mora. Now Mora is overcrowded, no jobs. If I don't have jobs, Mora don't have jobs. How the kids gonna go to school? The kids gonna get back in the street to sell. They're gonna get back to survive because they have to survive. The guy who caused to go to the, I bet most of them wasn't in Mora. They just came because of the war. They migrated to the capital. They didn't get nowhere to stay. Now they're in the street taking drugs. Like my man said, people living in Ducor. Who they pay rental in Ducor? This is just a caretaker they're collecting money. So there's no system that established for the government even help these people get off the street. Now, Ducor, if Hotel Africa were closer to Mora, they're going to be living there. But it's all the way in the back. So they ain't got time to go all the way over there. So everybody left the hinterland, moved to the city for greener pasture. But there's no way around. So since there's no way around, everybody can find me or surviving. Now our case with the poor parents, careful, they're in the street. So when I'm on drugs now, like I talked to a girl, her son is on drugs, she lives here, but son on drugs in Liberia. He's 17 years old. Yeah, because he's not academically inclined, but he good with his hands. So he's skillful, but there's no technical school, no vocational school. So the only thing is he joined the Zoko. She said, oh, uncle, I tried, may not even listen.
Oh, wow.
The common example, I have a land on 5th Street. My dad gave this land to a guy. Say, sit on the land. When I'm ready, I will let you know. This guy went back in the village and brought 9 families. 9 families. So that's it. One man get 10 kids. That one family had there. He brought 9 of them.
Wow.
Occupy the whole land. Now my dad wanted to evacuate the land. They said they didn't have nowhere to go. And my judge not even working. Most of them kids on the street. They don't get to talk to is there. Or kids and be selling what they did coconut for surviving. So the lawmakers are our problem in that country. They're making the most money and not doing no job. One man get a 17 cell phone on his desk. Go to the you don't see a word. He's sitting up there all day and go back home. You work 2 days a week. Can't pass any bill. Not even helping the president. But you, the only thing is in voting on, don't reduce my pay. My only concern. But with our people, I mean, how you driving in the street and you see the kids coming to your car to sell you water?
Yeah.
And you pull the window down and buy water from the kid. And you pull your window back up, you drive away. But that same kid parent voted you to be the lawmaker for that district. But I mean, yeah, it says Edwin still get a daycare, but only lawmaker children go to the daycare. Look at that kind of situation. And when your own people discriminating, the people who voted you, then you got daycare, but only your lawmaker friend who get the money can afford. So, this childhood, we miss our childhood, we miss our life. But we can ain't no put the blame on ourselves that the situation here at the time. But the new generation, 2021, some kids ain't even ride a bike before. They don't even get an iPad or like a toy. They don't have it before. And it's still immoral. Then we get everything with a daycare. You know, the popular friends, kids can go there. So the poor man next door now, who voted you? The kid had over to the B-Nice in school. You can never attend there. I will make progress. We got to start from the beginning. We got to invest in the young people. People want to get a better mind to grow up tomorrow. They will help transform that country.
Mr. Dennis, I mean, you touch me in so many ways, my man. Because honestly, it's like you on the ground, you know. Because look at the kind of situation you're explaining about people occupying your land. What can you do to those kind of people? When you go to get on the street, when you see all the kind of problems they have, this is a problem that we need to continue to speak about. And like Mr. Grateful Kind, with respect to the lawmaker, we agree that the lawmaker, our people need to they need to open their eyes and know who they voted for. I don't know how they can look at these people who will not even do anything for them. They want to put in the office. We should now start, yes. We need to stop voting people who are selfish. We need to stop voting people who only care about themselves. Because if we got people over there who care about the people, they will not even allow the executive to do anything wrong. But every day there are compromises going on over there. So, Mr. Gray, what's your point on this? Because
you see, like you said, our lawmakers are only concerned about people during elections time.
yeah.
You know, when that time approaches, then you will see truck of rice. They know the things that our people need, so they will buy those things. They are inclined to it. They will buy those things during election year, and they will take those things and start to give it to people. But they are not giving it because they love the people. They are giving it because they want their vote. And the moment they get that vote, they turn their back. Yo, a representative telling you, listen, I buy my vote. I don't need to do anything for the district. That is sad. That is not servant leadership. That is a problem. And then let's mention something about child soldiers. You know, we experienced numerous civil war in our countries, and we saw how child soldiers were being used by all of the warring factions that participated in the conflict. To date, Liberia have not yet signed with that the ILO to prohibit child involvement into conflict. That is still outstanding. That is a problem. That is a concern. Because those child that were already involved in the previous years of civil conflict, they are traumatized today. They are being affected today, and our government is not doing anything. Government classified them as Zuckles. The government is mentioning that who they are. When these guys did not bring the conflict, they got involved. We got children who are also going to neighboring countries. For the past months that had the insurrections in Abidjan and so forth like that, they were going there only simply because those over there were giving them money. They need to take their family. So they took money from their counterpart and they crossed the border to go fight. That is our problem. That is due to poverty, severe poverty. That a man does not have anything. He will do anything just to survive. So just think about that. That is a problem. So all of this infrastructure development, like Mr. Sako said, and so those are beautiful things. But we need to make sure that our people are fine, that they have the basic need met. And then also look at the legal framework. The legal framework in Liberia is a problem too. There is a wide gap in the legal framework as it relates to implementation of the laws. The Anthony said that. He said the issue, one of the core issues is the implementation. We got beautiful laws. They make the laws, but they make the law to meet international requirement. Not really making a law to change the lives of our people. Because when the ILO say, hey, we flag you because of this XYZ reason, you come up quickly and draft a policy and pass that policy into law. So at least that you get a check mark from the ILO. But the implementation is where we struggle because we don't want to realize.
We got like 5 more minutes to Mr. Mokrum. I would like to specifically ask you to address, because some of the reasons why we will stay in this situation is if we don't provide suggestion, people will think that we're criticizing, we don't here to criticize, we're here to state the issue and state what should happen. Now, the lawmakers we got, our Liberian politicians, what do you make of the weaponization of ignorance? Because if we keep our people unaware, they keep our people not educated, they lie, they give them free school, the education is not up to the standard, the quality of education it can be measured to their neighbors. Because they keep our people ignorant, they will always make the wrong decision. 100 men can settle down for anything. We agree that the lawmakers are our problem, but the voters, what kind of people voting there? What kind of people voting there? So how do you make up this weaponization of ignorance in the Liberian society that is leading to the voting of the wrong people, electing the wrong people all of the time? Mokrom. It's a concluding statement, Mr. Mokrom. You
okay,
on mute?
I was on mute, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm on mute now. Okay, I'll make this quick. Somebody who's contributed is Smile Undocumented Toure just made
Yeah.
that point you're making. That the guys
Mm.
they deal in obscurity because that's how they can prey on the people.
Yeah.
I,
Mm.
I made this observation a long time ago. I said in Liberia, if you are affiliated with politics, there's one or two things. You are either too foolish to know what you're doing, or you are intentionally nefarious to continue to cover up what you're doing so that we don't know. Because a lot of what they do in Liberia, they can't explain to you. The guy said, oh, the president said in his speech, the national legislature recasted the 2019-2020 budget to this amount. I dare you, if you get on any show tomorrow and ask a legislature, what does that process look like? What does recast mean to a legislature? What tools or what information do you guys have so that the function of recasting a budget is correctly done? You're not gonna get anything from anybody, and that's a challenge I can put up. But here is the deal: what I have noticed that in times past, over the last few elections, our people have become aware. They are voting based on contemporary conditions and what they are seeing in the country. The last election tells you that when the Liberian people are given the right information, they are able to vote the right people. What we need to do now, we that consider ourselves educated and informed, and know, we must get involved with civic engagement. Our pressure groups, our non-governmental organization, let's get involved with civic engagement. Let's explain the tenets of democracy to these people. These people who call themselves politicians and fighting democracy, they don't want the tenets of democracy to work against them. If we convince our people to understand things like what we call a referendum and petitioning for a particular elected official to get kicked out of office, and they start to do those things, those guys will come to themselves. So for me, the solution to that problem is civic engagement. Let's talk to our people. Let's tell them how they can make democracy work for them and not the politicians.
And that's the main reason of this platform. We want to keep talking to them and opening their eyes. Mr. Dennis, do you have any concluding statement on this topic? Mr. Dennis?
Our government can invest in early childhood development. That's the main focus.
Okay, so that's good. And Mr. Gray.
Yes, I think the guys have said it all. We just need more, I think, in my mind, invest in early childhood education, like my colleague said, but also provide budgetary support. When you look at our budget, there are areas that are taking huge sum of the budget. We need to make sure that budget support are provided in the education sector as well as agriculture, so that at least our people can go back to the soil to be able to produce food for themselves too as well. So those are key areas. Education for me, and also healthcare and agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Gray, and thanks to our viewer. The next time we want you to share each time we come live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, and we will encourage every viewer to continue to share our podcast, so that we have a lot of Liberians and tune into this show, so that we can also educate our people back home to know exactly what we need to do as people. We want to say thank you to everybody. We want to say thank you to you guys joining on the platform, and the broadcast has come to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.